Most athletes spiral after a mistake. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much. You beat yourself up, thinking it's the only way to stay sharp. But all it does is allow self-doubt flood your game and fuel even more mistakes. But there's a better way. And in today's video, I'm going to talk through a super simple technique that you can use to kill your self-doubt. And it's something I teach pro athletes as a mental performance coach. And every time one of my athletes puts this into practice, their self-doubt disappears and their performance skyrockets. So let's get started. Quick one, if you want to know and be able to use the top mental tools that I train elite athletes in, then download my completely free guide, Game Ready, using the link below. So I once worked with a talented golfer who had everything: technique, work ethic, and tournament experience. But every time he hit a bad shot, it was like a switch flipped. He'd go from calm and focused to full-blown rage. And I remember him telling me that he thought he needed to get angry to refocus. His inner voice was brutal, saying things like, "Fix it, you idiot. That was pathetic. Sort it out. Stop being." And for a while, he thought this anger was driving him forward. He felt it motivated him and acted as a slap in his own face to get to grips with the situation. But what it was really doing was tightening him up. Each mistake made the next one more likely. His round spiraled and the confidence he had built up in practice evaporated under pressure. The turning point came when we made one simple shift: how he responded internally to a mistake. We introduced a mindset that I call compassion without complacency. That meant changing his self-talk, not to let himself off the hook, but to calm the storm without lowering his standards. So instead of that angry spiral, we replaced it with lines like, "That's not good enough, but we now bounce back. It's just one shot. Let's respond like the pro I am. Okay, reset. Champions respond, not react." These lines weren't soft. They weren't about excusing mistakes, but they disarmed the self-doubt and just gave him a bit of space to avoid the resulting tension that comes from the frustration and anger of a bad shot. And the result? He started playing freer, more consistent, and those angry collapses turned into quick recoveries. That's the power of compassion without complacency. A mental approach that helps you stay calm and composed under pressure without lowering your expectations. Now I get it. Some people hear self-compassion and think it's soft, weak, like you're giving yourself an excuse. But that's not what this is. In psychology, self-compassion isn't about being lazy or just letting yourself off the hook. It's about treating yourself like you would a really good teammate. Acknowledging a mistake without turning it into a personal attack. Here's the key. Studies show that self-compassion actually leads to greater motivation, not less. Because when you're not wasting energy beating yourself up, you have more clarity, more focus, and a stronger ability to respond constructively. At the same time, we anchor this with high personal standards. You place certain demands on yourself to execute the movements and plays that you've perfected in training or practice. You intend to perform with precision and clarity. But meeting those high standards is only possible if you don't place too much pressure on yourself. Because self-inflicted pressure often just fuels self-doubt. It clouds your thinking, it tenses you up, and turns your movements into forced, clunky attempts rather than the fluid, confident actions you need. That's why self-compassion becomes critical. It's about reassuring yourself after a mistake that you can quickly reset, recover, and nail the next shot or play. And when you combine these two forces, high standards and self-kindness, you stop spiraling and you just start rebounding. So let's now run through 3 simple things that you can apply today to start fully embodying compassion without complacency so you can kill off your self-doubt for good. Firstly, it's crucial that you depersonalize criticism. So let's imagine you're playing in an ice hockey game. You've just missed an open shot on goal, a chance that you should have buried. It's frustrating, right? Now, what's your first reaction? Many athletes fall into the trap of calling themselves names like stupid, idiot, or useless. They make it personal, tying the mistake directly to their self-worth. And the problem with this is that it creates a negative feedback loop where the mistake becomes a reflection of you, not just the action. But here's the better way. Criticize the action, not the person. Instead of thinking, "I'm terrible, I can't believe I've just missed that shot," shift your mindset to something like, "That shot was bad. I'm better than that." By shifting the criticism to the action instead of your identity, you create space to learn and improve without letting self-doubt creep in. You preserve your self-respect and maintain a constructive focus. In this case, the hockey player recognizes the mistake, acknowledges it wasn't at the level that they expect, but they don't tie it to their identity. The focus remains on improving the skill, not labeling themselves as bad or not good enough. So what's the performance benefit of this? Well, by depersonalizing criticism, you remove the emotional weight that can cloud your thinking and make you tense up. Instead of spiraling, you're able to stay focused, reset, and perform your best on the next play. This kind of mental clarity is what allows you to bounce back faster and with more confidence after a mistake. Okay, so tip number 2 is to use third-person self-talk. Let's say you're a defender in a football match. You've just lost possession of the ball in a dangerous area, and the opposition is now charging towards your goal. They almost score, and you feel your heart sink. Now, what's your first instinct? You might be thinking, I can't believe I did that. I'm such an idiot. And then a wave of self-doubt begins to suffocate you. But when you use first-person self-talk like that, you strongly tie the mistake directly to your identity, which makes it so much harder to bounce back from. Instead of just being frustrated with the action, you're now attacking yourself. Once again, this increases the pressure and just makes it even harder to stay calm. Now, here's where third-person self-talk comes in. Instead of saying, I messed up, try something like, Sam made a mistake there, but Sam knows how to recover. He's done it 100 times before. By referring to yourself in the third person, you create distance between your sense of self and the mistake. This mental separation makes it easier to treat yourself with compassion and objectivity rather than falling into self-criticism. You're not you in that moment, you're a player who made a mistake. And that's something that you can fix, not something that defines you. The performance benefit of this is that third-person self-talk allows you to process the mistake more logically and calmly. Instead of spiraling into self-doubt that comes from attacking yourself, you can approach the next play with a clear mind. It gives you permission to acknowledge that mistake as just part of the game, and it gives you the emotional space to make adjustments in real time. And the last tip is super underrated, but so effective, and that's forgive to forget. So for this one, picture a tennis player who double faults at a critical moment. Maybe they're serving to take control of the set and the pressure is on. And instead of resetting, they spend the next few games stuck in their head, stewing on that moment, replaying it over and over again, angry at themselves for choking. Here's the problem. When you don't forgive yourself for a mistake, you carry it with you, mentally and emotionally. You tighten up, you lose trust in your game. And the mistake starts to affect your decision-making, your timing, your rhythm. One error turns into 3 or 4 because of that wave of self-doubt that you let in. But look, forgiveness doesn't mean you're okay with the mistake. It just means that you've processed it and you've released it. You've taken the lesson and let go of the emotional baggage so that you can fully move on. That's the key here. So how do you actually forgive in the moment? Well, firstly, just acknowledge it briefly. A quick phrase like, that wasn't good enough is fine. Just don't dwell on it. Then it's super important to interrupt the loop. Use a physical cue like bouncing on your toes, tapping your racket, or taking a deep breath as a reset signal. And then lastly, reassure yourself with intent. Say something like, I've come back from worse, time to refocus. This isn't just fluff, it's based on emotional regulation and attentional control. Forgiving yourself stops the emotional leak and redirects your focus back to the present. You reduce the mental noise, regain rhythm, and give yourself a clean slate to perform on the next point. So remember, forgive to forget. It's not soft, it's smart. And what's also smart among the best athletes in the world is that they have an incredible ability to stay consistent in their efforts, irrespective of results. So to achieve this for yourself, check out this next video here.